Hi everyone, as a developer, so which tool do you use most? If you ask me, it is the IDE, the Integrated Development Environment. There are many out there, but the most used, I think, is Visual Studio Code. Today we'll be looking at how to download, install, and use it on a Windows 10 computer. So to install Visual Studio Code on our Windows 10 computer, the first thing we need to do, of course, is to open our browser. I use the Brave browser. So for search engine, I use DuckDuckGo, so I'll access DuckDuckGo. And I'll type here Visual Studio Code. There it is. Of course, you can see the first option is there, Visual Studio Code. I'll click on it. And I'll click on the download for Windows. Now, I already have it installed in my computer. You can click to save to download it. You can see it's downloaded. Now, I already have it installed, so if I click on it for it to be installed, an error will pop up asking for me to use the present installation. You can see the error here. Setup has detected that Visual Studio Code is already running. So in your case, download and install it. How do you install it? Just click on the next buttons. Very easy. So click on cancel. And now open Visual Studio Code. Okay, this is it over here. So this is the welcome screen of your Visual Studio Code, the IDE. You can see there are many options here. So I will start by explaining each of these. At the top, you can see the file, edit, selection, view, go, run, terminal, and help buttons. On the left, you can see some few buttons on this left pane. Now, for a fresh installation of Visual Studio Code, you'll have just the Explorer, the search, the source control, the run and debug, and the extensions. You won't have these other options I have here. These were added with extensions which I installed. How can you add an extension, and why do you need an extension? Basically, the different languages that Visual Studio Code can understand is based on the extensions you have added to your Visual Studio Code. I have Ansible right here because I need Ansible for my work. I have Terraform here because I need Terraform for my work. So by adding the extension, now Visual Studio Code will be able to understand the Terraform coding language. That being said, let's talk about the buttons at the top. Of course, the help button is if you want to go through, you need some help. You can click on the buttons there to check any other link for help. The terminal, as a developer, you need a terminal to be able to work. You use a terminal to type your different code. We also have the run. This is more for any person who is a coder, like a developer, like writing in Java language or Python. You'll need this run button more. Go is, for example, if you are trying to ask Visual Studio Code to open something specific for you. We will not need that right now. View, if you want to change the view of your Visual Studio Code, you want to change the appearance, you can see here. You want to change the layout of your Visual Studio Code here. This is all to change the view of your Visual Studio Code. Selection is if you want to change, you are trying to ask Visual Studio Code to change to select some other things. But we don't need that right now. Edit, you can see here, it is to undo, to redo, to cut, copy, paste, normal things. Now the file is where I'm going to spend more time. You see, we have new text file. This is if you want to ask Visual Studio Code, of course, to create a new file for you. New file, new window, open file, open folder. Now what if I have some code in a folder and I want Visual Studio Code to open that code for me? Sort of like what we do in our Linux computer. What if you want for Visual Studio Code to open a folder for you? Basically, you come to the file button, click on it, and then go to open folder. Now you need to navigate to where you believe the code is found. For example, I would say the code is found in the folder called Joe, for example. And for example, let's say the code is located, this is the code I'm looking for, Terraform EKS, and then I click on select folder. It's going to open a new window, and you can see now all of my code is located on the left pane. Now it is very easy for me to click on it, and I have the code opened right here. You can see the colors are different. That is the strength of using an IDE. If you use just a normal terminal, it is the same as using an IDE, but the difference is that it will not be as colorful as you see mine right now. Alright, what if these colors are not the ones you want and you want to change it? If you look on my screen, on your screen as well, on the bottom left corner, there is a manage button. If I click on the manage at the bottom left, it opens this little pane. You can see there is something here for color theme. I'll click on it, and you see here is where you go to change the color of your Visual Studio Code. You can change to Abyss. If you want, you can go back there, go to color theme, change it to anything else you want it to be. I'll leave it to be like this. Alright. What are the use of these buttons on the pane, the left pane? So Explorer, of course, is to show you the present working directory like you do in Linux. This is the PWD. This, you use the search if you are trying to search for a particular code. For example, I have this code on my terminal here or in my Visual Studio Code, and I'm trying to search for every word with every word name. If I type here name, it's going to search for any word containing the word name here, any phrase, any sentence, anything containing name. You can see it pops up right on the left here. If I want to replace name with something else, for example, I want to replace name with names, I'll type here names. And you can see it's suggesting here it's going to change username to usernames. If I accept it, I press enter. And once I do that, it changes everything to names. What is the use of this source control? Like you know, source control has to refer to source control management. For example, GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab. You can connect your Visual Studio Code to your source control management platform. You can basically do that by setting it up here, and then you'll be able to connect, and you'll simply follow this prompt to push, pull, clone any repository from your GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket account. What about the run and debug? This will be used more for people using coding languages such as Python, Java, and others. Extensions is where you go, like I mentioned before, to download, update, and install any extension which you need to increase the languages that your Visual Studio Code can understand. Now, we can't go through the entire functionality of Visual Studio Code, but let's not finish without using the terminal a little bit. So click on terminal, click on new terminal. Now, like you saw in my extension pane, I already have Terraform installed in my computer, and also I have the extension added to my Visual Studio Code. Alright, I'll come here, and if I type Terraform, you see it is seeing that I already have it installed, and it is recognizing it. And also looking up here, you can see that Visual Studio Code is coloring my code because it understands the Terraform language. How does it do that? Because I added the Terraform extension. That's it for today. We have learned how to use Visual Studio Code, how to download, how to install, and how to navigate it. Please, for any comments, please drop your comment below. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and bye-bye.